Alright, here's last night's progress on this here. This is this is going to be the surface to the sink. So what I got, you can see the yellow reflecting. It's causing the glitter to be blue. Yeah, this is shiny, glossy epoxy resin. So this back here is a project I worked on initially back in May of 2024. How I did this was I put down a layer of epoxy resin, and then I pressed a layer of sand and glitter on top of it, like sprinkled it on there, and then just kind of pressed onto it with my hand. No risk of getting epoxy resin on my hand because there's a layer of sand several millimeter thick on top of it. And then it's got as you can hear, a rough texture. I've debated whether I should continue that or do what I did last night, which is mix in the sand with the epoxy resin. You can see it, and it became almost like its own concrete cement that I stirred up with a spoon, and then I poured it on here and flattened it out. I do like the results, and because I did sink these shells into it, like they're not coming out. That's pretty neat how the epoxy functions as glue. Sprinkled on a layer of glitter on there. Now this sand underneath, the reason why it looks so white is because it was white sand, like the same white sand that I used here from Hobby Lobby. And you know, I always like the white sand beaches in calendars, but I don't know, it looks a little plain. And so I had some sand that Hobby Lobby calls ceremony sand, which is like kind of a light yellow looking sand, and it had gold colored glitter. And you can see where I just took and shook on lines of it from the jar, and then I ran out of it for here, so I tried to simulate the effect. I got this golden glitter that's kind of got a green iridescence to it. You can see what's obviously supposed to be land, and then the water is got the blue, but now it's gonna look more blue than this, because what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put on a layer of resin that's got blue dye in it onto the water. And I put in the shells, so they're going to be underwater. This is going to be like the ocean floor. Got some shells on here on the beach. Maybe I should put in I should have put on a few more shells on the beach. I'm not finished yet. I got to put on some more thick layer of sand. There's a little bit of a height difference. I did run out of sand last night. I think there's a bump right here where it's higher elevation. And then this is a little more shallow here. But that won't matter for that, because I gotta put on a layer of resin that's more than a ½ inch tall. So I'm probably gonna put 1 inch of resin on this. So it's got some depth. Oh, is this gonna be heavy? I mean, I already got like what? 15 pounds of sand or more on this thing, plus the resin adds quite a bit. I've got at least 9 pounds of resin and at least 15 pounds of sand. What I'm probably going to have to do is, when I go to put this on the sink, the top of the actual sink. I'm probably gonna have to get probably some 4x4 post to use as supports underneath of the existing sink. You see these bolts are just going to actually hold it in place and keep it from sliding. They're not going to be needed for weight handling or any load bearing. They're not even straight. I did not use the right size drill bit. And the hole was a little small, and then I just kind of wiggled the drill bit to get it through. So they're obviously at a slant. So there's a lot of room for improvement. I put in these bolts before I started using the epoxy resin, so there's no way they're backing themselves out. Now this underside here that you see is going to be covered with resin as well. At least 2 millimeter thick, probably 3 millimeter thick resin. Now these edges of the plywood, I'm going to put on resin on them. I'm going to put probably at least 3 millimeter thick resin on here on all the edges of the plywood. The back side, I'm probably going to do about 2 millimeter thick resin. Now where this is going to go on to the actual sink, the sink is going to function more like a countertop. These notches here, notice how there's a notch, and this is leaving a gap. This is going to go right up to the wall of the existing sink. That's what that's going to do. So there's going to be about a 1/2 inch gap in between. Now this water is going to flow onto the water from the faucet that's mounted on the wall is going to hit this here, and it's going to run toward here because this is going to slope, and it's going to force the water into this area here. So that's why it's got all the blue glitter. It's going to simulate water because that's where the actual real life water from the sink is going to fall. And then the water won't be able to slide off to the side because that'll block it. Now what I got to do is, once I set this on the top, I got to run a bead of silicone along this here. And I'm probably going to run it underneath it too. I'm probably going to silicone the whole area and just set this on top of there so that it'll function as a seal. Now what will also be a good idea, in case water gets underneath it, which that's what the silicone is designed to prevent. I'm still going to use resin on the underside and seal these bolts to the wood by using resin as well. But what I'll do is get some rubber washers and put on there too, so the water can't go underneath. I'm basically going to treat it as if I don't trust it, as if I don't trust the water. And now, as of today, when I lifted this up off the table from upstairs, now I've learned not to trust the weight. This thing's probably going to weigh at least 50 pounds once I'm done with it. Yeah. I mean, this plywood started out, I mean, it's dimensions. Okay, so it's 40 inches. It's 40 inches wide, and it's 19.5 like that. I mean, this plywood was light enough to throw across the yard before I put on the resin and the sand. But now it's going to be heavy enough to where one person is going to struggle to carry it. Might take 2 people. I don't know if the existing sink will handle it. Well, it doesn't matter, because a 4x4 post will handle it quite well, because that handles the weight of people, because 4x4 posts are typically used on porches. So one way or another, I'm going to get this thing to work.